Well, good morning. It's a Sunday morning for me. And once again, I'm trapped by the weather. Normally, I would be going up to church in the next parish, nice long walk, put on a suit, but it's snowing, so that's not going to happen. I'll just go to church near where I live without a suit. But some people like that bow tie video I made, so I thought I'd make one about pocket squares, which shouldn't take very long, actually. Pocket squares is not as big a subject as bow ties, and I don't own as many pocket squares as bow ties. Uh, First, should you wear a pocket square? Well, the answer really depends on what kind of pocket square it is. Because if you are wearing a plain, clean, white handkerchief, then the answer is you should, and if you want to, you can always do it. Some of the more florid, some of the more fancy pocket squares, you run the risk of over accessorizing. But I think it's assumed that we might always have a handkerchief on our person. You know, when I was a little boy, things were a little different. And I'm not 60, I'm not yet 60. But the world was different, even though it's not very long ago. And they taught us how to bow in kindergarten and curtsy. And the girls were taught how to curtsy. And, things of that nature. And one of the things was people were forever offering women handkerchiefs. I mean, it was just expected. You had to have a handkerchief. You might say, "Well, I don't have a stuffy nose or anything." And they said, "Well, what if you have to offer a woman a handkerchief?" I think that all went out by the mid '70s. That was gone. Uh, but I remember it as a boy, and you see it in old movies. But we really did that. And frequently, someone might have one handkerchief in their pocket that they were using and another one for lending. And I think the most classic handkerchief you can possibly use, without question, is a white handkerchief as a pocket square. I'm going to show you one that's still in the package. That's Irish linen. It was my grandfather's, and that's why it's still in the package. Even though if you have linen handkerchiefs and there's a cellophane cover to the package, you should remove that because it's not good for the cloth. But nonetheless, these are plain white, and they have a sort of, I don't know if you could tell, they have a sort of a worked edge. It's like little holes worked into the edge for decoration. Here's another kind. This might be cotton, but it's got a sort of, can you see that? The way it's woven, it's got lines woven into it. And so if you have a clean white handkerchief that's been pressed, that's certainly the best of all pocket squares because you can always wear it. You don't have to worry about if it's too much. And there's something about understatement in men's attire that is very important, and young people don't always understand it. Now, the next step up is a colored handkerchief. Now, here's a plaid one, and the only rule with them is there reaches a point where you have to retire them from that use because it's got to be a nice, presentable one, not one that's been in the wash 20 or 30 times. Here's one from Brooks Brothers years ago. If you look, you see the blue check there, very subtle. And those would all be uh, similar to the plain white linen handkerchief, which is the best. These are all handkerchiefs used as pocket squares, and I think that's the nicest thing all around. But sometimes that doesn't do the job. So, for instance, you might want to wear something very summery. This is a very light plaid, and that would be suitable for the summer. And if you're wearing a seersucker suit or something, this perfect for the winter time which it's a white polka dot on blue. Patriotic events. But, yeah. If you're feeling patriotic, red, white, and blue uh, is always good. And that works for a lot of countries too. Now, here's one that maybe your outfit's a little muted. You want to go with, it's got a lot of color in it, but it's a little muted. Another one in yellow. It's very pale yellow. And then this one is sumptuous. I mean, that's something else. And that could go well with a red background, like a burgundy blazer, or that could go with a green blazer, or with a suit. It's very versatile. And, here's another one that brings up a topic I brought up in bow ties. This one came with a necktie, and I also had a bow tie and an ascot. They were all the same pattern. I bought them all. Let me give you a good look at it. Now, the reason I showed that to you is that came to match a bow tie or a necktie. I don't know which one it was supposed to match. There is an alleged rule, a supposed rule, that you can't wear a pocket square that matches your necktie. That is a supposed rule. Well, you show me that one in the penal code, okay? It's a good thing to follow if you're going to a job interview or you're going to make a media appearance or something. You can be around strangers. Because some people think that that's a sign of bad taste. And I think where it comes from is there's a lot of cheap neckties that come, particularly like monochromatic, imitation satin neckties that come in a set with a matching pocket square. And it really can be tacky, especially if you're wearing a colored shirt and you're contrasting the shirt to the tie and the whole thing sort of matches the suit somehow. Yeah, I mean, it is, I wouldn't call it a hard and fast rule, but I think it's probably a good idea to avoid doing it. But you got to use your own common sense, because there are other cases, I object, on St. Patrick's Day, people go a little crazy with the green. And I got this, came as part of a set with a, right there, this came as part of a set with a green necktie. And it's definitely a green pocket square. It's not kind of green, it's really green. And, on St. Patrick's Day, sometimes I have worn those together, because the idea of that day is green, I mean, and there are other days that'll, depending what group you're in or what event you're going to, you might want to overdo it. So, as I said, it's a supposed rule, don't match your tie to your pocket square. I think it's generally a good idea, but, we're not getting in trouble with the prison warden or anything. Now I'm going to just show you a few in quick succession. Here's one. I hope you can get a good enough look. Here's a completely different one in cotton. And the color balance isn't good on my computer, but it's yellow. Here's one in gold. And here's one in black. Okay? And here's another one in black, which also came with a tie. And which I wouldn't ever match those two. It's just too much. And here's another yellow one. Very nice yellow one, I think. Here's a wild orange one from the 70s, 1970s. Look at that. A little modern, but you know. Now the last one I'm going to show you is English. It was very expensive. I know, even though it was a gift, because you can just tell these things. I don't know how old it is, but it is wool, and it's made in a similar pattern to one by Drake's. So I'm going to show it to you, and maybe I should try and get those. I'm not going to get the elephants right side up, but it's a sort of yeah. Maybe I'll fold it over so you don't. Yeah, that's a sort of an imitation Indian pattern. So it's in the Indian taste. I don't know what the word for that is. I mean, you know, if it was Chinese, it would be chinoiserie, you know, that kind of thing. But it's definitely British. It might have been made by Drake's. I don't know, but that'd be very nice. You know, to wear. It's probably the most ornate one I have. So what do I want to say about pocket squares? Well, I think you have to be careful not to over accessorize. I wouldn't apply that rule to a handkerchief worn as a pocket square, particularly a white handkerchief. But otherwise, you have to be careful. You don't want to look like a Christmas tree. I've heard people say that. You know, you don't want to, and they even say that in other countries. I've heard it on, you know, TV and such. So you don't want to over accessorize. A handkerchief you can always wear. I don't care what else you're wearing with it. Uh, and you generally shouldn't match them, but you know you could, uh, depending especially on the tie, because I think that rule came mostly from cheap neckties, and so you know that's the thing. You shouldn't match it directly with your tie unless you want to, and you might want to. But beware that you know people might judge you by that. You know, job interview or something. So what's my last takeaway? Is you don't have to spend a lot of money on a pocket square. All those pocket squares I showed you were all nice. You can wear them with all the same kind of outfits. Some of them cost a couple of dollars. Some of them were. One of them was much more expensive. You know, and so once again, you got to use your independent judgment. Avoid synthetics. That's a good rule. Avoid synthetics, polyester, things like that. And just look at it and ask yourself, do you like it? And use your independent judgment. I saw a pocket square the other day in the Armory in New York City, and it was a nice store, beautiful clothing, and I got along with the salesman, so I go by. It was $175, but you know, it was beautiful. It really was beautiful, and it was handmade, matter dyed, which is an antique process. But you don't have to spend that kind of money, and if you're a working man, you probably shouldn't. If you're extremely prosperous, you know, spend your money. But it was beautiful. I was tempted. I really wanted it. But so another thing is how to get tie. How do you tie? Not tie. How do you fold a pocket square? There's all different ways. And what I would suggest is I can improve on some videos that were put out by T.M. Lewin, Lewin, in London. There's a lot of YouTube videos. I can improve on them. If you want points, you want a puff, you want a square front, it's all possible. But those videos are nice, and I'm not going to go over them because I can't improve on them. So good luck with your pocket squares. Remember, variety is good. You don't need to spend a lot of money, and just avoid tacky synthetics. I once used a bandana as a pocket square. Okay, so in the summertime, good luck, you know, and remember, don't over accessorize. Try not to match unless you want to, and good luck. Thank you.